What if I told you that all those years you think you wasted weren't wasted at all? What if silence, stillness, and that moment when you dare not do anything were exactly what your soul was waiting for to completely transform your life? Today, I'm going to show you why sometimes the only thing you need to do is be silent, wait, and observe. Because Allah can transform your regrets into power, your losses into blessings, and double your wasted years. But only if you let Him be in control. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change the way you see your entire life. Imagine for a moment, you are alone in your room. The door is closed, the outside world ceases to exist, and all that remains is you and your thoughts. They loop endlessly, like heavy clouds that refuse to dissipate. You relive the choices you could have avoided, the words you should have held back, the prayers you whispered in the secret of your heart, yet whose meaning you still don't understand. Your heart silently cries out for change. It doesn't shout aloud because you know deep down that the answers won't come from others. They won't come from advice heard here and there, nor from the successes you observe in those who seem to be moving faster than you. No, they will only come from Allah in that place you have often ignored. Your own heart, your own silence. And suddenly, there is this inner voice, so gentle it could almost go unnoticed if your soul weren't already awake. A voice that says, stop, be patient, don't speak, don't struggle, observe. At first, you resist. You're afraid of inaction. You believe that remaining still, closing your mouth, and simply watching is a waste of time. But slowly, you begin to understand. This silence is not empty. It is not useless. It is alive. It is a fertile field where Allah begins to sow what you thought was lost. Every tare you held back, every regret you carried like a burden on your shoulders, every moment you wanted to give up on everything. None of it was wasted. Every mistake you regret, every relationship that broke, every hope that was snatched from you, all of it becomes material for an invisible miracle. But to see it, you must first accept stillness. You must accept watching without interfering. There is a secret that very few souls understand. Allah does not reveal Himself through noise, commotion, or words. He reveals Himself through patient observation. In the moment you stop forcing things, stop speaking to prove you know, stop running to get what seems right to you, that is when He acts. And when you begin to feel this silent presence, you realize that what you thought were wasted years were actually preparatory work. Your heart, your experiences, your falls, your frustrations. Everything has been shaped for this precise moment. The silence you dreaded becomes a sacred space where Allah transforms your past, amplifies your efforts, and doubles the blessings you thought impossible to receive. Perhaps you still feel resistance. Perhaps your mind tells you it's taking too long, that you no longer have the patience. But it is precisely here, in this silent waiting, that the transformation begins. You see nothing yet, but beneath the surface, every piece of your story is being reorganized, re-evaluated, and prepared, so that what you thought was lost becomes an unimaginable strength. And there is something profound you must understand now. It is not only your past that is being doubled or transformed. Your heart, too, is changing. Every sigh, every silent regret, every tear that falls unseen, all of it becomes an invisible energy that draws you closer to what you are truly meant to be. So, instead of fighting the silence, begin to welcome it. Don't try to understand yet. Don't try to explain yet. Simply remain still. Breathe. Observe. and prepare yourself. Because the moment you stop struggling, the moment you stop trying to control the path, that is when the miracle will begin to unfold before your eyes, greater than anything you could have imagined. And it is precisely in this waiting that something greater than yourself begins to take shape. Imagine a young man, a weary heart, shoulders bent under the weight of his own mistakes. He walks through life as if in a desert, each step leaving behind an echo of regrets and broken promises. Every plan he devised, every strategy he crafted, seems to have failed. His dreams have scattered like sand in the wind, and he finds himself alone, facing a mirror where only the shadow of what he could have been remains. He tried. Believe me, he truly tried. He chased success, the approval of others, that feeling of being recognized and valued. He spoke, argued, pleaded, struggled, and each time the world responded with closed doors. His hands still tremble, but not with fear. Trembling with weariness, with accumulated frustration, with an immense effort that was never rewarded as he had hoped. And yet, something begins to change. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he feels a strange calm. It's not the calm the world would offer him. It's not a reward seen in a ticket, a diploma, or a social success. No. It's a calm that comes from within. A deep breath that flows through his soul, whispering to him, stop struggling. Don't try to fix what belongs to Allah. Observe. At first, he resists. His mind still tries to rationalize, to control, to force change. But his trembling hands, his heavy shoulders, his sleepless nights, and his stubborn prayers begin to show him the truth. He cannot change anything on his own. Every human effort, every desperate attempt, has been a preparation for something greater, something he cannot yet see. So now he sits. He looks around him. The city lights continue to shine, indifferent to his struggles. People rush by, unaware of the silent battle he is waging. But he observes the invisible movement of blessings, a stranger's smile, a breeze that cools his face, the scent of rain on hot concrete, tiny silent signs that say, I'm here. Even in your failure, I'm working. He begins to understand something radical. Everything he has experienced has not been a punishment nor a definitive failure. Every closed door, every loss, every humiliation has been a subtle lesson, a secret training for his heart. The trials have not broken him. They have refined him. They have prepared his soul to receive what the world cannot give, a silent, invisible, yet infinitely powerful transformation. His tears sometimes flow, but they are no longer tears of despair. They are tears of liberation. Every regret becomes an offering, every pain a bridge to something greater. He begins to feel the miracle of stillness, the silence, the resistance, the inability to rush for immediate change. Because true change doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It grows in the shadows, where the heart can receive it, and only there does it blossom. Now he looks at his own hands, tired but alive, and he understands. They were never meant to fix everything. They were meant to teach him to let go, to understand that control belongs to Allah alone. And in this letting go, he feels his heart open, as if years of regrets are evaporating, replaced by silent anticipation of what is to come. In this state, the young man senses a truth that many ignore. Sometimes, the greatest blessings come in stillness, in waiting, in total submission to the one who sees what no one else can see. And as he begins to accept this reality, he senses an invisible force working around him, doubling his past efforts, transforming his failures into stepping stones, and his losses into secret plans he could never have imagined. And as he remains there, motionless, observing without forcing anything, a certainty begins to dawn in his weary heart. What the world has taken from him, what he thought lost, is returning, but in an infinitely better way, prepared by the one who knows the end even before the beginning. And it is precisely at this moment, as he breathes, still and silent, that a question arises in his soul. What if all these trials were merely preparation for something I haven't even imagined yet? How many times have you whispered in the silence of the night, if only I could go back? How many times have you stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep, reliving the choices you should have avoided, the words spoken too hastily, the dreams you let slip away through lack of courage or too much fear? Those years, those moments when you thought you were running for something important, only to find them empty, pointless, or even destructive. You call them lost. And sometimes, the pain of this realization makes it hard to breathe. But listen closely. Those years, those moments you thought were wasted, haven't vanished into nothingness. Allah doesn't erase them. He doesn't destroy them. On the contrary, He takes them and transforms them. Slowly, silently, subtly, but with infinite precision. Every tear you shed in secret, every regret you carried like a burden on your heart, every moment of solitude when you prayed unsure if anyone was listening, all of this becomes sacred material, material that God shapes into strength, patience, and insight you didn't possess before. Look at your sleepless nights. How many were spent tormenting yourself, worrying, thinking you had ruined everything? And yet, each of those nights, each of those hours of anguish, they were stepping stones. Invisible stepping stones, placed there only by Allah, to prepare you for what you couldn't yet receive. The failures you believed were final, the losses that seemed insurmountable, they were in reality divine preparations, secret workshops where your heart and soul learned to become stronger. Think of all that you thought you had lost: broken friendships, missed opportunities, wrong choices, shattered dreams. And now, imagine for a moment that what was taken from you, what you still mourn, is returning. But in a form you could never have imagined. That your regrets are not useless scars, but secret pathways to unforeseen blessings. That what you thought was lost is becoming a hidden treasure that only patience and silence could reveal. There is something profoundly unjust, yet miraculous, in this transformation. You, human, measure time in days, months, years. But Allah measures time in lessons, experiences, and preparation. The years you call lost are not counted as lost in His vision. They have been used to refine your heart, purify your mind, and prepare your soul to receive what it could never have received had it obtained what you wanted at that very moment. And there are those moments when you feel broken, when you wonder if you are still worthy, if your prayers are heard, if your life will ever have meaning. This doubt, this pain, this loneliness, all of this is part of the divine plan. Because Allah doesn't just transform what is visible. He transforms what you cannot see. He transforms sorrows into understanding, trials into inner strength, emptiness into sacred space where blessings can take root. Every breath you take in your grief is a reminder. You have never been alone. Even in the moments when you thought everything had left you, even in those nights when you pleaded and wept in secret, Allah was at work. He was taking what you considered lost and preparing it for you, molding it into an invisible yet real power. Every tear becomes a seed, every sigh a step toward a transformation you cannot yet see, but which your heart senses. And this is where a wonderful paradox occurs. The more you accept the pain, the more you embrace your regrets. The more you remain silent and observe, the closer the miracle comes. Because the time you thought was wasted was never wasted. It was suspended, waiting, until the precise moment your heart could receive it, understand it, and use it for something greater than yourself. So look at your past again and feel it fully. Feel every tear, every sleepless night, every regret. And now feel this energy rising silently, invisibly, ready to transform your losses into power, your failures into stepping stones, your wasted years into blessings you never dared imagine. And it is precisely in this silence, in this breath, that something greater begins to be born, something that surpasses anything you could have planned or controlled. Imagine a seed, a tiny seed, seemingly insignificant at first glance. You hold it in your hand and wonder how something so minuscule could ever grow. You look at it and think, this is all I have, and it's far too little. You dropped it on dry, barren soil, where the sun beats down mercilessly, where the wind scatters everything that isn't deeply rooted. You thought it would never germinate. You believed all was lost, that your efforts, your prayers, your hopes, all those wasted years, had died in the sand. You told yourself that time would never return, that what you had lost was gone forever. But here's what you didn't know. Beneath the earth, in total darkness, a miracle is brewing. Where no one can see, where you can't force life back, the seed begins to work. It doesn't struggle, it doesn't complain. It doesn't look around to see if the world approves or encourages it. It simply grows, silent but persistent, slowly, surely. You're preparing for what you could never have imagined. The roots extend into the hard soil. They slip into every crack, they cling to what seemed barren. And they are all in secret. The miracle takes shape. The sap resists it, imperceptibly, with a force that no one can see. And yet, it exists. The invisible nutrients, the seed's silent patience, the time it has allowed itself. All of this creates a power that not even wind and drought can destroy. You see, the seed never compares itself to other seed. It doesn't look at those planted in fertile soil, those that seem to sprout instantly. It continues on its way in the shadows. It prepares itself in silence. It strengthens itself in secret. And one day, a day you can neither calculate nor anticipate, that seed becomes an immense tree. A tree so vast that it offers shade to those who walk the same path as you. A tree so strong that its roots speak of patience, perseverance, and trust. A tree so grand that its very existence whispers, all that you thought was lost was never truly lost. Your wasted years, all those hours when you believed you had no control, all those efforts that seemed futile, they are like that seed. They were buried, invisible, perhaps even painful. But they were preparing something greater. Every failure, every silent tear, every regret you thought was pointless. All of this was the subterranean growth of your soul. A growth you couldn't perceive in the moment. A growth that in its own way prepares your heart to bear blessings you never imagined. Now imagine that this seed isn't just your past, but everything you thought was lost in your life. Your abandoned dreams, broken relationships, closed doors, missed opportunities. What if I told you that Allah takes every piece of what you thought was beyond saving and transforms it into something alive, something that surpasses all your expectations? The seed never dies in the darkness. It merely prepares the miracle you will one day witness. And this is where the true lesson lies. The miracle doesn't appear in haste. It doesn't reveal itself to those who want everything immediately. It is prepared for those who embrace stillness, silence, and patience. It takes shape for those who have agreed to let Allah work in the unseen, to let His plans transcend their human calculations. Like the seed, your silent past, your regrets, your unnoticed efforts, all of this is transformed in the darkness. And when the time comes, you will look around you and see what you never thought possible. There is a profound beauty in this process, a beauty that only those who have embraced patience and silence can feel. Because the seed doesn't care what the world thinks. It doesn't compare itself. It doesn't rush. It grows. And through it, Allah shows you that your apparent losses are not losses. They are preparations, invisible foundations, silent promises. So look at your past, and look at it with new eyes. Feel every pain, every regret, every night you thought all was lost. And know that they are the roots of your coming miracle. And even if you don't yet see the light, even if you can't yet touch the tree, it is growing. It is expanding. It is preparing your heart and soul to receive what will surpass anything you have ever hoped for. And it is precisely in this silence, in this waiting, in this moment when you stop struggling and observe, that something invisible but immense begins to be born. Why are you in such a hurry? Look at yourself, always running, always rushing towards something you don't even understand yet. Why this restlessness in your heart? Why this need to solve everything now when the world, and especially your soul, needs time to breathe? What if you could simply stop? What if you could put your hands down, stop forcing things, and observe the breath of your life as it is, without judgment, without expectation, without the desire to control? You are so young, and yet you already carry so much weariness in your mind. How many times have you believed that your mistakes defined you? How many times have you thought that lost time was irreversible, that every missed opportunity was a sign that everything was over? But look again. If you could hear your heart, not your mind, but your heart, it would tell you something else. It would tell you that nothing is lost. Every hesitant step, every clumsy choice, every silence you've refused to embrace, all of it is there to prepare you for what you cannot yet see. Every moment you call lost is a spark of energy God has preserved, a seed hidden within your soul, ready to sprout at the precise moment. Why do you believe that lost time is lost time? Have you forgotten that time doesn't belong to you? That you don't own a single second of it? That every hour, every minute, every breath has been entrusted to you by the one who knows your beginning and your end, even before you understand your own path? What if this silence you resist, this patience you fight, is exactly what your soul needs? Imagine that every moment you felt useless, powerless, isolated, was actually a sacred space, a secret place where Allah was working within you, where He was preparing your heart to receive what you could never have received if you had controlled everything, if you had decided everything on your own. What would happen if you stopped talking? If you stopped justifying your failures, defending your choices, shouting for the world to acknowledge your efforts? What if you stopped forcing change, chasing solutions, fighting against what simply has to happen in its own time? What would happen if you let Allah take over? If you let His silent plans prevail over your noisy ones? If you accept that what you call delay or loss is simply a form of divine, invisible preparation, which only your heart can sense, but which your mind cannot yet comprehend? Sometimes, the greatest movement begins in stillness. The greatest change doesn't shout, it whispers. It isn't immediately visible, but it is deeply felt. It isn't measured by calendars or accounts, but by the beat of your heart, by the patience of your soul, by the clarity that will emerge when you cease resisting. Don't you see that your restlessness keeps you in the same cycle, in the same wheel which you've called failure? And that true progress, this progress you've never felt, begins when you accept to be silent, to listen, and to observe. When you stop trying to understand everything, control everything, see everything, and when you trust the one who knows what's best for you before you can even imagine it. And if you could speak honestly to yourself now, in the silence of your soul, can I truly let go? Can you accept that what you call delay isn't delay? That what you call loss isn't loss? That what you call failure is a secret divine plan unfolding? Imagine what that would mean. Imagine the weight lifting from your shoulders, the breath returning to your heart, the light beginning to shine in the dark corners of your mind. Imagine what you thought was beyond saving starting to return in an amplified, doubled, transformed form. And now, look at yourself again. Are you ready to hear this silent truth? Are you ready to accept that your current stillness is not a sign of failure, but the very sign that a miracle is about to unfold? Are you ready to be silent, to watch, and to let the greatest movement of your life unfold before your eyes, invisible yet powerful, guided by the one who knows the beginning and the end of all things? Every question you ask yourself, every doubt, every complaint, all of this is just the prelude to an awakening you cannot yet imagine. And even now, as you listen, your heart feels something stir, something that says, prepare yourself, for what is coming will surpass anything you have ever known. And it is precisely in this silence, in this inner dialogue, that the transformation begins. And there, in that void you thought insurmountable, in that silence that seemed cold and cruel, in that moment when you no longer know what to do, when you feel like you've hit rock bottom, Allah acts, not with fanfare, not with brilliance, not with what the world recognizes. He acts in secret, in the unseen, where only your heart can feel. There, where your weary and troubled soul believes all is lost, He begins to transform what you called failure into strength, what you called loss into provision, what you called delay into perfect timing. Do you remember all those nights you prayed in silence? Your eyes red, your heart heavy, wondering if anyone was listening? Those moments you thought were useless, those whispers you thought were lost in the air. Allah takes them all and transforms them. He makes them invisible pillars for your future. Every tear you shed has become a seed. Every regret has become a guide. Every breath of patience you held, despite your despair, is now an energy you can neither measure nor comprehend. Look closely at what you thought was lost. Every effort, every attempt, every failed plan, everything you believed to be useless becomes essential. Allah never makes what has value disappear. Even your most grievous mistakes become cornerstones upon which He builds your path. Failures you thought were final transform into stepping stones. Experiences you believed to be barren become lessons you would never have understood otherwise. And you who still watch, you observe. You don't understand everything, and you don't need to understand everything now. You remain still, silent, as if waiting for a miracle to reveal itself to you. And this silence, which you believe to be empty, which you believe to be useless, becomes the place of your true encounter with the divine. You finally realize that lost time was never truly lost. What you thought was beyond saving is returning, but amplified, doubled, transformed by the one who sees what you cannot see. Now imagine that each day of doubt, each moment of solitude, each period when you thought everything was collapsing was on emptiness, but a sacred space. A space where Allah was preparing something your human mind could not conceive. And in this silence, in this stillness, you feel an energy rising, subtle yet real, making you understand that you are exactly where you need to be. Even if your heart still trembles, even if your mind wonders how long it will take, a certainty begins to germinate. You are being prepared for something greater than anything you have ever known. And there, in that breath, you remember. You remember all those times you prayed without being heard, hoped without success, doubted without understanding. And now, all of that takes on an invisible meaning. Every difficulty you faced, every person who let you down, every dream denied you, it was all orchestrated by the one who knows the end before the beginning. Everything was to prepare you for this precise moment. You then realize that the miracle doesn't come in the form you imagined. It doesn't arise in shouts, in haste, or in commotion. It arises in stillness, in silent obedience, in absolute patience, and in total trust. That is where true transformation occurs. In stillness, in waiting, in accepting the divine plan. And even now, as you observe, still and silent, you feel something stirring around you, an invisible energy, a gentle yet powerful force that begins to reorganize everything you thought was lost. You don't see it yet, but you feel it, like a seed beneath the earth, like a breath of wind propelling an invisible ship, like a light preparing to pierce the darkness. Every loss becomes a blessing. Every delay becomes perfect timing. Every failure becomes a stepping stone. And you who thought it was all over, are now seeing that it's only just beginning. And it is precisely in this moment of suspension, in this silence you feared, in this void you thought insurmountable, that the greatest miracle begins to unfold. If this video touched you and you feel your heart needs this inner peace, don't wait any longer. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. And above all, let yourself be guided, remain silent, observe, and prepare to see Allah transform each lost year into a multiplied blessing.